In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to teach you how to become unskippable. That was my 5-second YouTube pitch. What do you think? It was the 22nd of September, about 3 weeks ago, and I was sitting at home on my couch, scrolling through my Facebook feed, when all of a sudden, I stopped. I saw a post from Dennis, a family friend from home, who I'd only seen in Cork a week previous to that. Dennis was now posting from Greece. I'm going to share with you his post, and I want you to take a second to read it for yourself. My beautiful city is now just rubble and dust. These words lingered like a long December's evening. How was it that this human story had been hidden in all of the data? It was no longer numbers and data-heavy headlines and text. It was human. I felt emotion, and I connected to Muhammad's story. Why was it that this one story connected with me? Why was it that I really connected with Muhammad? 2 weeks later, I was lucky enough to see a really powerful storyteller, Lisa Johnson, talk here in Google. And after Lisa's story, as well as some of my own research, I began to understand why Muhammad's story had impacted me so much. Storytelling. It really is an art form. You look back at storytelling and it's in our DNA. It's been around for thousands of years. And this was the reason that Muhammad's story impacted me, because it connected with me as a human on an emotional level. You look at a story structure. We look at Freytag and his dramatic structure. Every story must have a start, a rise, a climax, a fall, and an end in order to be effective and to connect with you as humans. All of this started to pull together and started to work into a pattern for me. And I want to share with you what I've learned. But to start with, let's talk through the science behind this. We all know about our left and our right brain. Our right brain, it's our emotional brain. This is where things like you feel, emotions, where you're able to respond to those emotions and name them, and also where creativity happens. Things like storytelling light up the right side of the brain. Storytelling allows your right brain to light up so that you can let things like data in and really understand them in a different way. Your left side of your brain, your analytical brain, or your logical brain, for want of another word. This is where critical thinking and reasoning really step in. Your left brain lights up when it sees data. This is where data is processed. But your left brain can become overwhelmed when it's thrown data without actually having that emotional connection first. So here's the question for you. Emotional leverage is the most powerful influencer that we have. We can use our right brain to open up our left brain to absorbing and understanding data and contextualizing it. Storytelling really is an art, but it's not always used effectively. In order for it to be used effectively, you have to have a story process or a story pattern. I spoke about Freytag a couple of minutes ago and his dramatic structure. Let's have a look at Google's See, Think, Do, Care framework to help us understand how to tell a powerful story to your audience. See. So this is the start of your story. This is all about your audience. Who are they, and where are they in relation to your care or the end of your story? You have to connect your audience with a hero. Every story needs a hero, and your hero has to be most like your audience. In my story, the hero was Muhammad. He was like my brother, similar age, similar passions. What if this had been my brother, my friend, and that's how it connected me and brought me in? Think. This is the rise of your story. You have 5 seconds to go big or go home. Start and open with your big idea. We saw in Sarah's presentation yesterday, she opened with, mobile video is your future. As she said herself, an emotional statement. What kind of powerful way is that to capture your audience? You can also use a metaphor to do this effectively. I'll give you one I'm thinking about at the moment. Has anyone heard of an 800-pound gorilla as a metaphor? Think about an 800-pound gorilla. Definition of an 800-pound gorilla. Something or someone that has more strength and power behind it that it can crush all of the competition in its path. For me, I'm building connections back to maybe a Mr. Trump in a US presidential nomination at the moment. So think about, if you're using a metaphor, how that metaphor is going to connect your audience back to how you want them to feel at the end of the story. It has to move your audience. Next, we move to do. This is the climax of your story. This is where change starts to happen. And what's most important here is what actually makes the change happen. You need a change catalyst. For me, that change catalyst was Dennis, my family friend from home. Without Dennis, I would have been completely unaware and unconnected and lost in a sea of data. Whereas Dennis helped me to understand the new way to look at this problem. In your story, your agency could be your change catalyst. And finally, care. This is our new world. This is where everything changes. Care is where the change occurs. And in order to get to the care, you have to follow through on the other steps. And keep in mind, we want the end of our story to be a positive one. That dopamine, there's a reason it's there. We need that running through your brain in order for this to be a positive outcome story. I hope you've seen in the last couple of minutes how the art of storytelling can really help you to influence, engage, and accelerate your audience from the start line to the finish line. So how do you bring your audience from the start to the end of your story? The next time you're meeting a new audience, whether it's internal, external, in your agency, with a customer, I want you to think about me and my story, how I started lost in a sea of data that I didn't understand, and how I ended up connecting with Mohammed in my story. Use storytelling to become unskippable. Thank you.